Okay, so in in a nutshell, I've had a very busy week. I'm actually scoring a show for Fordham University's theater department. I was over there until midnight last night, and then now we got these technical problems. So I think we worked around it with a phone call. I'm calling in with the phone and sharing my screen here. So let's talk about marketing. Marketing made simple. All right. So if you guys want to maybe type in, don't be shy in the chat box, but what you're hoping to learn today, I'll try to cover what you type in there. That'd be really helpful. And let's see, I'm going to share with you 3 secrets today that I think will make a big difference in your life. Of course, I don't want to overpromise because I don't know who you guys are really, personally. All right, so I'm not going to be able to see the chat box until a little while later because I'm going to let this take over my screen. So let's talk about this. So marketing. Marketing is actually one of 3 pillars in a successful studio business. What I have here is I'm showing you that I have marketing, we have curriculum, and we have systems. Now, I'm not going to talk about curriculum at all today, but if you guys are familiar with my work at all, I do have a pretty extensive beginner's curriculum called the Musicolor Method. You can check that out. And systems is a whole nother subject, but marketing is an essential pillar. So I'm assuming that you're already getting some great results as a teacher because you have your teaching stuff down, because otherwise you're not going to have any, you're not really going to be able to do much more when you have great marketing, even because you're not going to be able to fulfill your services as a teacher. So I want to give you a quick background on who I am. So, I know you guys, some of you came to me through the Musicolor Method curriculum. Actually, some of you guys are in my course, so thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate the confidence and the breakthroughs that you've had with my materials. But let me give you a quick background on me. So I went to NYU, and NYU has this very unique program where it was a music and business program, and as well as technology. So I started out with a teaching scholarship because my dad said I had to be an employable musician or something, and I fought him on that, and finally I gave in because I got a full scholarship for teaching. But midway through, I switched to the music business program, and that gave me a lot of insights into the world of marketing. But, I really just wanted to be a rock star. And somewhere along the way, I kind of combined those 2 worlds, and I started working at a company called Concrete Marketing. We did all the early marketing for a lot of hard rock bands and heavy metal bands that you know nowadays, like Guns N' Roses. We totally introduced them to the world, and all the bands like Megadeth and Anthrax, all these horrible disease names. But I was loving it because I was working with rock and roll and working from the marketing standpoint, which I found really fascinating. And then I somehow ended up chatting up some people at MTV, and I was starting to write stuff for them. I was writing their columns, their show scripts for the Headbangers Ball and other things. And I actually became a VJ at MTV Asia in the early 90s. So along the way, I also was a techno nerd, and I started dabbling with the internet. And when I came back to the States, I had already co-founded a internet marketing company, and I think I'm pretty good at marketing now. So I'm doing work at Digitas as a art director and working with our biggest client, American Express, doing marketing for all their websites and their cards. So I'm thinking, wow, I know this stuff. And then FCB took me, and I joined them as a VP Creative Director, working with big accounts like Chase, as well as Clairol, and a whole bunch more. And then around, 9/11 happened, and it was a big wake-up call for me, because I was like, what am I doing? I could have lost my life that day, and what was I doing? I was working in advertising, not really fulfilling my dream of being that rock star or working with music, and I started going back to composing music. And then my son, at 3 years old, this guy here, started asking me for music lessons, and that completely changed my life, because I started looking for lessons for him and realized there was a huge gap in the marketplace, because there was all these great toddler programs, like Mommy and Me type programs, like Music Together, and you would sit and play music, and he would, play percussion or would jingle the tambourine. But anytime you wanted to actually learn how to play an instrument, the teachers were saying, well, we're not ready for him until he's like 7 years old, or at least kindergarten. And I was like, what am I going to do with this kid? He's so musical. He's singing all the time. He loves music. He's 3 years old. So I started going back and making this a homeschooling project. And in 2007, I started a music school that has been wildly successful, with lots of bumps along the way, and I'm going to share about that. And fast forward today, here's me and my family. My son's now, he's turning 15 next week. He is an incredible musician, and I'm very, very proud of him. Anyway, so why did I tell you all this stuff about me? Because I'm a music teacher just like you guys, but I've also had this other life in marketing, right? But here's the problem. I want you guys to know, what do you guys think is the biggest myth in business? And I did this presentation a few weeks ago at a local entrepreneurs club, and a few people knew it right away. It's this one called, if you build it, they will come. That is a total myth. It's so unfortunate. That movie ruined so many people's lives, because if you build it, they will not come until you tell them about it and connect your audience with it. And I learned this very painfully with this company called 300 Monks. So after I left the big ad agency, I was already scoring some stuff for advertising and film, and I started putting it on this website to license it. And I got a whole bunch of other people giving me their tracks as well, and nobody was coming. I was spending tons of money promoting it, badly. Because it was a very different thing to promote a small company, a small business, when you were used to working with multi-million-dollar budgets. So, the stuff I learned at Amex, I may have learned a lot of things about user interface and how to talk to customers, but when they have a multi-million-dollar ad campaign where there's ubiquitous coverage, everyone knows who they are, there's no problems there, right? So, anyway, this was a painful lesson. This site still exists today, but it's never made me a lot of money. And now, since 2007, I've been focusing on Park Slope Music Lessons, which has become an incredible success. And I think it's because of the things that I've just discovered along the way, a lot through trial and error. So a successful teaching business needs to solve the problem of learning an instrument. I actually have another thing as well, because I also promote the personal development aspect of learning an instrument. And you want to have a specific audience. So who do you work with? Right? Very specific. And then you need a curriculum that matches that audience with a compelling offer. Why is it you? Why don't I just go with the other guy down the street who's $2 cheaper or whatever? And you need to be easily found by that audience. Plus, you got to manage your cash flow and profitability. We're not going to talk about that today. But my big epiphany was that marketing for a small business is completely different than for a large corporation. It's so vastly different, and most of the information that you get out there about marketing really does not apply. You know, when they say small business in a lot of these books, they're talking about a small business that has 50 employees. I mean, that's not very small. Most of us who are music teachers are solopreneurs, or maybe we got one or two other people teaching with us or under us, or we might be lucky enough to have an admin assistant, you know. So my offer to my local music school audience is that I believe that learning a musical instrument is one of the best paths to personal development. Of course, it's great for entertainment value and for being an artist and expressing yourself, but I think that the personal development aspect for me has been incredibly powerful in my life. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter how good you are if no one knows about it, right? So the one thing that you need to realize today, if you don't remember anything at all, every business needs marketing. And you don't have to figure it out yourself, all right? So marketing is something that you can't run a business without. But what is marketing? You know, it seems complicated because there's all those fancy terms and fancy acronyms, and I want to make it simple for you guys so you don't have to figure it out yourself. And just here's another idea. Getting good at marketing is kind of like learning to practice piano. You know, when you are practicing the piano every day, you're getting better, but it's not like a straight shot upwards, right? Just like music or sports or any activity, you have to practice. And if you've noticed, I've noticed that I've become a much better musician because I've had to teach it. And I've had to think about the problems of performing and reading and playing and technique in a way that is broken down into succinct, communicable chunks. So marketing is kind of similar. In fact, I'm kind of practicing right now with you guys. So the thing is that most people, I know that a lot of guys never ask for directions, like the male stereotype, you know. But I really wish I had asked for help 20 years ago from some coaches and mentors who have now discovered in the last few years. Because there's so much information. As I said, most of it does not apply to music teachers, right? So I want to help you make it easier, and we're going to do that with starting with today's workshop here, webinar. So there is secret number one is all about matchmaking. Marketing is connecting your teaching with the students you want. Now, we can get very, very specific about that, but that's all it is. It's really just a matchmaking skill. You don't want to teach everybody. You want to teach the students that you want, and only you know who they are, right? So it's like an iceberg. There's so much going on underneath, behind the scenes, that you don't even notice. You know, when you receive like an email or you see a flyer, there's a lot of thinking going on behind the scenes. So, marketing versus sales. So this is how I consider it. It's like marketing brings your audience to your offer, and then sales is that process of fulfilling that offer and getting paid for it. So then there's these systems for marketing, and then there's systems for sales. They're very different. If you're a solopreneur, you might think of it as putting on a hat for marketing and then putting on a hat for sales. It's the same thing that writers do when they're in writing mode. They have their writing hat on, and then they put on their editing hat when they're in editing mode, right? I wish we all had separate marketing departments and budgets to pay for that. Marketing generates leads, and those salespeople, leads are prospective clients, right? And sales department would follow up with those people. Now, marketing is vast. It can include all kinds of things like advertising, publicity, promotions, all kinds of content, trial offers, and then All those things are driving people to sales where you should have some kind of onboarding process. So, one small sliver of marketing is advertising, because that's basically paying for an audience. And there's two kinds of advertising. Push advertising is kind of familiar. You say you're watching television, you're watching a favorite show, and all of a sudden you get interrupted by a commercial. And because of the show that you're watching, it's a certain kind of commercial that's geared to that audience. You'll notice that daytime television has a different advertising than, say, watching primetime stuff or sports. Now, pull advertising is a little more subtle. It's kind of like you're searching for something, and then you kind of like your eye was caught there, and you were led down that path. So push, I feel, is more like Facebook, where you were just there to browse with your social feed, and then pull is more like Google, where you're like searching for something, and you're in buying mode already, maybe, or research mode at least, and then right next to that little search box, there's a little blue box that says, hey, this is what you were looking for. So that's the two kinds. Now, everyone talks so much about Facebook, and I want to tell you why, because Facebook has so much information about everybody, and they let you pinpoint with accuracy who you want to target. Whereas Google, you can only target against what the words they're searching for. So say you were searching for music teacher in North Carolina, right? Or even more specific, music teacher Raleigh, right? Raleigh, North Carolina. Google will say, okay, they're looking for somebody in that local region, and we're going to serve up ads for that. Whereas Facebook, you're kind of jumping in front of people who match that target that you want, but they also know a lot more. They know what your preferences are, what you like to do on the weekends. They know how many photos you've posted of your child, so they know your family. It's kind of creepy, actually. So, the thing about Facebook, these stats are a little bit old, from 2014, so it's definitely gone up since then. If you see on the upper right here, we got this, the average time spent on Facebook per day in 2014 was 40 minutes. I've seen that go up now to about 70 minutes a day, which is kind of incredible. It's like having the equivalent of the Super Bowl audience watching their channel every day, right? There's over 1.39 billion. There's now 1.94 billion monthly active users, and 79% of all American internet users use Facebook. So it's just crazy, and it's growing, and the reason why is they know everything about them, right? It makes it easier to share your stuff. So, as I said, Facebook is kind of like a privacy advocate's nightmare, but an advertiser's fantasy. Now, as I said before, Google is more of that pull thing, and Google too is super billion-dollar company. They get something like 3 billion searches a day. So either way, you can pay for your audience to connect your service with one of these juggernauts here, right? But there's other ways. And before you even spend any money, I want to give you guys some powerful reflection questions. So the great thing about questions is they direct your focus. If you think about it, what is thinking? It's all about questioning, right? If you ever feel stuck, it's probably because the quality of your questions are not taking you to where you want to go. So change the questions. It changes your focus. It changes your actions, right? Okay, so here's some questions that you need to ask before you do any kind of marketing, whether it's advertising or printing up a flyer or anything, writing an email even. Who is your audience? I mean, this seems kind of simple, but it's different because you want to think about who is your desired audience. Who do you want to work with every day and change the quality of your life instantly? I mean, do you guys have some customers that you'd rather not have? I had that a few years ago where I had to actually politely fire some customers who were consistently late in payment and were kind of like treating me like the hired help, and it was not a good situation. It was not a good match, basically. So who would you like your audience to be? That's the question. And then where does your audience congregate? You know, it could be that in your town there's a certain coffee shop where all the desirable clients that you want are hanging out. So I focus mainly on children, so I want to hang out wherever the moms are, moms of 3- and 4-year-olds, right? And that could be also online. There's plenty of Facebook groups, Google groups that actually have, and there's even listservs, local listservs. In my neighborhood, there's something called Park Slope Parents, where people chat about their kids and ask help for finding a nanny, that kind of thing. I've gotten many referrals through that. So now, what's a small problem, not your big problem, what's a small problem you could solve for your audience? And can you offer this as a free gift? Now, you've seen this in the supermarket where, you know, say you go to Whole Foods and they're in the aisle there saying, try this tasty new salsa dip. And you didn't really have that on the top of your mind, but all of a sudden you're like, that's delicious. I didn't know I had a problem with choosing my salsa, but now I've found this new thing, and I've just had a free sample, and I've experienced it, so now I want to purchase it. The same thing can be for you as a music teacher. There's ways that you can think about what can you do to give your audience a little sample of who you are. We can talk about a little bit more about that later. Now, what is your offer and what makes it compelling? Now, your offer I'm talking about is what is your core service? What are you teaching? You know, are you teaching piano to anyone, or are you wanting to work with a specific type of music or type of student? All right, so this is an important question to answer. So here's where it gets even more powerful. How can you narrow your focus so that you are truly one of a kind? The ideal is that you want to be basically in a market of one. You want to be the big fish in that small pond. It could be a super small pond, but if you have enough clients, it doesn't matter, right? There's a great article you guys can Google for called 1,000 True Fans by Kevin Kelly. And he wrote this many years ago, and it's still super valid. It was written for anybody who was trying to connect to an audience in this new world of internet marketing and the long tail of distribution. You can Google that term too. But basically, the thesis is that all you need is 1,000 true fans who will buy anything that you put out, and you can make a 6-figure income. Say you're a band, and you have 1,000 true fans who are buying every album you put out. You know, 1,000 times $10 for an album. You know, that's $10,000, right? So, how can you narrow your focus? We'll talk a little bit more about this. And how does your offer relate to your gift? Right? Obviously, in the supermarket analogy, that's a very direct connection. You can see that there's, well, I can taste this, now I can go buy it, right? So maybe you can think of something like that for your audience. Now, number 7 is what's your value ladder? This is a kind of advanced concept, and I learned this from a guy named Russell Brunson. So here's an example of a value ladder. The value ladder has this is for a dentist, right? So you see values rising on the vertical axis, and price is rising on the horizontal, right? So say the dentist sends you a little coupon that says, come in for a free teeth cleaning, and you just got to bring in this coupon. When you're there, they say, hey, you know what? You can also get a whitening for just $50 or whatever. Oh, okay. So your value has increased, and meanwhile, they've increased their revenue, right? And along the way, it keeps rising and rising until the final core offer. You're a full customer, and you're with them every 6 months for a checkup, right? You can think about this from a music teacher standpoint, too. I mean, there's lots of ways you can do it where maybe that's a free report about your studio. You have a information session. Then you have a trial lesson that I don't recommend it being free, but you could do a free group thing in a school or something. And each time you go up, you're bringing up higher value to the client, but also increasing your revenue until you have them fully onboarded as someone in your roster and renewing every year happily. So here's another concept. What's a funnel, and do you have one? So again, this photo comes from Russell Brunson, this little chart. I think the most important part of this chart is this left-hand side where you have the three kinds of what he's calling traffic. Now, traffic is just people, right? People who are coming to your offer. They could be cold, warm, or hot. Hot means, they're already looking, they know what they want, they might even heard of you before. They're pretty much ready to sign up if you just reassure them and everything works out scheduling-wise. Warm is like, okay, I get the idea of what you do. I just need to be convinced that this is the right fit. And cold could be like, my kid hasn't even been asking for music lessons. I don't know, should I even do this? Right? So each type of person there, of course, needs to be talked to in a different way. You can't talk to a hot customer the same way you talk to a cold customer. And basically, a funnel is just a process of bringing customers into your world and moving them along from cold to hot. So, after you have them in that funnel, how are you going to nurture these people so that you can reassure them? And, not everyone's going to be for you, but this is part of the process. And then, of course, what systems can you set up so that you're not doing this manually every second? And, you want to teach music. That's what you got into this for. You don't want to be doing marketing calls and stuff, right? Okay, so here's secret number 2.
Hi, this is Barbara Cecil, a little late.
Hello. I was having trouble before, so you can turn off your webcam.
Okay.
And mute yourself. But I had to call in with the telephone because we had audio problems before.
Oh, all righty. Okay.
Okay.
I had a 20-minute lawyer call, and I needed to do that too. So I was like, oh, good. You're a little behind.
Okay. So let me just mute you guys in case. Just let me know that you guys can still hear me if I didn't get cut off. All right. So and I've just put my presentation on hold for a second. You guys can type in the box where you're calling in from. All right, in the chat box. And I see. Hey Kim, I see that you're on the call. Great to see you. All right, so here's the next thing. everyone is not your customer. Okay? So, learn who they are and go get them. So Seth Godin's a fantastic mentor and guru of mine. He's written many, many books, and he has a daily blog. He actually writes every single day and sends out something pretty gem-like. So I would suggest checking him out. But this is very true. Have you ever seen like ads for handymen? They'll do anything, right? It's kind of it's useful when you have lots of little small jobs. That doesn't mean that, it's not going to be a life or death situation. But would you want that guy, doing something detailed, maybe installing a window? You want the specialist, right? And that's the secret. You want to be narrower in focus to stand out, right? You want to be attracting other people like the people that you're getting to work with right now, because like attracts like. Once you start getting a certain kind of student, they kind of know the same kind of people normally, and they're going to bring in more of the same. So if you don't like working with that audience, that is it's kind of like you're dooming yourself to that world. So choose carefully, right? You're going to attract more of the same students. When I started teaching my son, it was it was organic. My marketing was me hanging out, picking up my son from school and talking to the parents, and them telling me, or asking me, what are you doing about music lessons for Alejandro? And I was like, well, I'm teaching him with my own new method. It's like, whoa, where can we sign up? So it's, his audience, his circle of friends became my first students, and that just grew exponentially. So here's some ideas for how to focus your specialty. So you have location, obviously. This is how I thought about it when I started Park Slope Music Lessons. In fact, I didn't expect to call my company Park Slope Music Lessons, but that's kind of been what it became. I mean, you don't have to do that either. Maybe it's your name, but having your website be the name of your town is a really easy way to generate tons of prospective clients coming to you, because when Google searches, it says, oh, look, your town's name plus music lessons, it's going to come up right at the top. And then when you get there, it could be like, oh, this is Barbara's Music Lessons based in, whatever town you're in. Or your, Johnny's Music Lessons or Ben's Music Lessons in, whatever town. It is incredibly helpful. Okay, now, you want to, of course, location is important, because when people are coming to you weekly, it is a drag if they have to spend an hour getting to you in traffic, So the easier it is for them to keep this going, the more they're going to stay around with you. Style of music is incredibly important too, and can become your calling card, because there's some parents who only want, I only want my kid to play Suzuki classical piano, and they're looking for that, or cello, or whatever. Other ones are like, a little bit of everything's good. For me, age of students was my main way to focus. I advertised for years saying music lessons for kids 4+. But I've been taking some 3.5-year-olds now, because there's been quite a few that actually could do it. I've met and coached other music teachers who only do college prep, and they love that, because it's a very intensely focused period, and they can offer their expertise in that area, right? Curriculum is a huge thing. Now, curriculum should be matched to your audience, obviously. And so the Suzuki method, my method, the Musicolor method, there's all kinds of methods out there, Alfred, Faber, all these things, right? There's also the type of instrument. Now, there's a big difference between fiddle and violin, even though I mean, it's physically the same. It's the whole paradigm, the whole mental mind shift of how you approach the instrument, right? I wish there was a fiddle instructor in my neighborhood, because I've been getting a lot of calls for that, and I love bluegrass. Bluegrass is like that democratic ideal. Everyone plays, and everyone shifts around on instruments, and everyone sings. It's the people's music. Also, you can specialize by your type of student. You know, maybe you work great with special needs kids. I have quite a few, actually, because of my musical method. It works really good with special needs kids, kids on the autism spectrum, Asperger's, that kind of thing. Or it could be that you're just working with, stay-at-home moms. This is a whole way to specialize your focus. If you notice, there's some accountants who do this really well. I've met some accountants now who say only accountants for actors. In New York City, that would do pretty well, I'm thinking, right? And you get to work with a great audience of creative people, and after a while, you also know that world really, really well, that you can offer even more value. So here's secret number 3. Your best customers are actually your best marketers. So your current customers, I'm talking about, people who have already experienced you, they are the best people to do the marketing for you, because it's third-party validation. You're not having to tell everyone how great you are. It's different when I say, oh, I'm great, But when someone says, he's actually really, really good, there's a lot more believability there. And that, especially if that person's not my mom or dad, right? And if you think about this in any business, the hardest and most expensive part of marketing to get a new student is actually attracting them in the first place, getting them to spend time with you, and then starting to trust and love you. Here's a nugget that I'll never forget. It's like people don't care until they know how much you care. And I want to say that again. People don't care until they know how much you care. And I see it all the time. I bring in new clients who are kind of balking at my price because they don't realize how hard it was to get onto my waiting list in the first place, whereas people who've come through the waiting list are really appreciative and extremely excited to work with me. People who just kind of lucked out and got on, they're like, what? What's so good about this guy? And after, 3 weeks of lessons, they're like, wow, okay, I get it. And then they're the ones that are outside evangelizing for me. So referrals are the number one way to do marketing, but you have to ask for them. You actually need to train your customers to do this. No one thinks, they say they'll do it, and they might say in passing, but it's even more powerful if they actually write a review for you, write a testimonial, like your Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. So you want to make that easy for them to do. I'm doing this myself. I actually had to put it in my email signature. I said, if you enjoyed this process, please write us a review at our Facebook page. Here's the link. I have a fair amount of people who don't use Facebook, and so I have another link to my Google local business page, which is actually a little bit difficult to find, but if we work together, I can actually help you manage that whole process. There's systems to help you automate some of this, too. Some of them are very pricey, but there's some that are not so hard. So, this is something that we all know, right? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I believe that you guys are actually here for a reason. There's no accident that we found each other. So you must be ready. And I'm seeing myself in this role as the teacher. I'm not a master. I'm a music teacher just like you guys. I'm just maybe a few steps ahead of you, which is why I'm so excited to share this with you, because I've just received so much life-changing results really in the last 3 years. I've gone from just me teaching out of my living room, 25 kids, to now having 60 students with 4 other teachers besides me, and it's just fantastic. I love the fact that I can help more people, which I couldn't do before. So I'm excited about sharing this with you because I do believe in the power of music to change lives and to make us better humans. I think we need that. I think Congress needs that. So if you would like my help, I have 2 ideas of how to work with me. Obviously, a few of you actually are in my course for the Musicolor method, but that was very specific to the curriculum side of things. There's a little bit of marketing help in there, but this is going to be focused on marketing. Now, what is coaching? Coaching is actually investing in yourself, and there's a reason why it's exploding. If you've heard anything about coaching, life coaching, business coaching, personal coaching, all that stuff, it's because we're all starting to realize it's like hard to see yourself, you know. And if you'll see, this is from the London Business School, but it's the same statistics everywhere. You can see that people who have run businesses using coaches, 56% of them have increased their businesses in the past 12 months compared with just 14 of people who had no coaching. And the return on investment was 700%, which is fantastic. You can't buy a stock that's going to give you 700% returns. Very unlikely. Now, this chart was from another coaching thing, and it was talking about life coaching, but it's the same thing. I mean, especially since we are music teachers, where music is kind of like our life, and there's a blurry line there. Like, you know, we love music, but we also love teaching it and sharing it. 99% are satisfied with the overall experience because it works. Right? You get increased productivity. The whole thing about coaching is like I've heard this great quote before. You are the average of the 5 people you most hang out with. Think about that. Who do you hang out with most of the time? Those 5 people are basically what you are thinking on a daily basis, right? And how you think, how you act, how you ask questions. You can change that by changing the quality of the people you hang out with. Now, of course, you can't do anything about family, right? But outside of family, you can choose who you want to associate with. And I think this has been the biggest thing that's changed me in the last few years. For a long time, I was down and out for the count. I was really depressed. I felt stuck, and I kept trying to push my own way. It was probably the darkest period of my life. We had to go to marriage counseling because I had gone into debt, $50,000, trying to make that first business work, that 300 months business, and I wasn't willing to accept coaching. I started out with a therapist, and that led to coaching. So if you've ever had a therapist for any reason, it's kind of similar. I mean, therapists don't fix you. They bring your attention to issues that you are having and make you see yourself in a new light, right? Like one client told me, it's like trying to read the label on the bottle from the inside of the bottle. You're stuck inside a bottle, and you can't read the outside. And, you know, if you ask your friends about you, you'd be amazed at what they can tell you about yourself that you don't really even see. There's a whole bunch of stuff about that, too, like you have the curse of knowledge. But it's the fastest way I know for growth. So I want to give you an example of somebody I worked with. I started working with Brett 2 years ago. We worked together intensely for about 6 months. And during those 6 months, he had massive growth. And he actually wrote me this little thing here, because he said the act of me agreeing to contractually pay you for the service immediately changed his mindset from amateur to professional. Because, he's all of a sudden he's committing money. He says, okay, I'm going to make this work. And that actually is an important part. A lot of times people take free workshops and then they get all this great advice, but they don't take action on it. Probably because it's like, well, it was easy come, easy go. You hear great advice all the time, but when do you really take action? About 3 years ago, I spent $6,000 on a coaching program that I was freaking out. I was like, this is more money than I've ever spent on anything. But it is, I feel it has completely changed my life for the better, and I would do it again. I probably would pay more. So, what did I do with Brett? We first started with a coaching questionnaire, which I do with all my private clients, and we set objectives and timelines. And we said, where are you now? Where do you want to go? So what is going to make the biggest impact quickly is what we wanted to work on right away. And I would provide accountability. And each time we met, we would see what would we do in the last 2 weeks. What did you do based on what you told me you wanted to do? And then we would make tweaks and adjustments. And what's different about me being a coach for a music teacher is that because I'm in the same world, I've actually looked at the same tools, the same resources, thought about the same things. I can actually say, you know what, I tried this, I tried that. Those didn't work so good, but this worked amazing. So it's a little different than like your average life coach who's going to ask you more. I'm sure they're going to be great questions, but they may not be able to steer you to solutions that are in your world, right? So here's another guy I worked with, Rob. He came to me. He was hosting these sing-alongs for toddlers, and he also taught some people, and he was trying to set up a school where he would send teachers to their houses, and there was a lot of organizational things that needed to happen. And again, we did the same kind of things where we set the objectives and timelines and all that. But what we did was a lot more systematic for him. Like, he didn't even have a legal structure to get paid. He didn't have any kind of scheduling system. It was all like Google Calendar. And, I mean, that could work, but it was a lot of work. He didn't have a phone number that was dedicated to the business. He had no financial structure. So all this stuff, I was like, you know what? I actually just went through this a few years ago. Let me tell you my recommendations here. I researched some other things for him for scheduling and admin. And then marketing, we actually did very clever marketing with the places where he was doing his sing-alongs. We had little postcards that would, because they already knew who he was, and they had sibling discounts. So it was all integrated into a well packaged system. So again, massive results in a short period of time. These guys both worked with me on a personal one-on-one coaching kind of thing. So to do the one-on-one coaching, it's a very time-intensive thing for me, so I don't really have a lot of time. As I said, I'm actually doing a lot of things right now, like I'm scoring a play. But I want it to be all about you, and it takes all my focus for. So how it works is we'd be working usually about an hour-long phone or Skype call where I really would be delving deep into what your current challenges are, what your current wins are, where we can rapidly change your setup or make lasting changes very, very quickly. There's always low-hanging fruit that we can do quickly. And it is the fastest path to success. And I only have slots available for 2 people for this. But to make this really, really powerful, it can't be like, oh, all right, we're going to do 1 or 2 calls. I think it needs to be a commitment of at least 3 to 6 months. And this is what has pushed people over the edge, because it says, all right, I got this limited amount of time. I'm going to make this really work, right? So for a 3-month period, we can do a package for $1,200, and I know that sounds like a huge commitment, but we can set up some kind of payment plan if you want. I think the success you're going to have, it's hard to imagine from where you are right now, and I'm so confident that this will work because I've seen it happen over and over again, especially in my own personal life. So, one-on-one coaching, only 2 slots available. Send me an email if you're interested, and we'll set up a free call. We'll explore your path right now to see what you're going through, and if I can even help you. I might not be the right person for you, but we would discover that on our first free call. Okay. So here's the other way you can work with me. I've created something I'm calling Higher Octave Studio Success. If you want to get to the higher octave, hit the high notes in your marketing, in your business, and your life, this is another way you can work with me. So how it works is that it's going to be a group. I'm going to customize it to whoever happens to be in the group. All right, and you'll have consistent opportunities to personally connect with me. I'll be watching your progress. You can ask me your questions directly during live Q&A calls. Not too different than this one, though you'll be unmuted. You'll also receive accountability check-ins, and I can monitor your progress and challenges. Right? You'll have a structured program so that we can push you outside of your comfort zone. And yeah, I'll be there. I'll be cheering you on. You'll be taking leaps to places you've been stuck. And if you fall, you'll be supported by myself and by the others in the group. Now, that is a huge thing because I told you I went through that massive coaching program myself. I still have a tight group of guys in my mastermind group who are in all different industries. None of them are in education or music or non-for-profit. But the support I've gotten and I've also given has been so powerful. I mean, I feel like I go to the end of the earth for these guys. We've become a tight-knit team, and it's a mastermind group. And that term I've heard that term in a lot of places. I first discovered it from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, from when he started interviewing Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world at the time, who used this principle of the mastermind to lift himself up. So, before you invest, you want to ask yourself, what kind of return can I get on this investment, right? And as I told you before, those statistics are showing that most business owners achieve an average of a 700% return. Like, this is it's so hard to even imagine what that means. But like with Brett and Rob, those guys have doubled their businesses in less than 6 months. I think in some cases in 3 months. So, we're going to teach you how to be focused. You're going to take things off your to-do list because there's a whole thing about delegation. You're going to be earning more. You're going to be having more energy. I have a lot of thoughts about how you can get energy with some small changes in what you're eating. I know I'm not a dietary coach, but I tell you, I just went to the doctor and I was kind of surprised. I lost 8 pounds in the last since I last saw her, which was about a year ago, and it was effortless. So, let's see, what else? You're going to have strategies to help you earn an extra $1,000 a month, $2,000, maybe $3,000 a month. Depends on what you want, okay? It's all about you guys. And if you can make up the cost of the tuition of this program in a year, joining this should be a no-brainer, right? So, let me tell you a little bit more about that. So, before I even do that, I had this deadline. Actually, this is out of date. I have to put the new deadline, because everyone needs a deadline. It seems like we are procrastinators by choice here. So I'm going to give you guys some bonuses, but only if you sign up with me before, today is what? Let's see, what's today's date? Today is the 28th. I'm going to give you until October 2nd, okay? And you'll get the tools I use, which is a massive value that is not available anywhere else, because I'm going to hone down your choices of what is available out there, because I've looked at so much. And I'll also give you a personal review of your marketing materials, which is super, super golden, because I still need people looking at my stuff all the time. You can't see the label from inside the bottle. That's what it is. Okay, so Higher Active Studio Success. This is a 6-month program, and it's $600. So it's kind of a bargain if you think about it. And I'm going to take a look now at what you guys are saying in the chat over here. You guys have any questions for me? If you can type them into the chat, I can take your questions. I've been talking too long. Can you guys hear me? Maybe I should turn on my camera. Hold on a second. Okay, you guys. So, do you guys see me? Barbara asks, is it possible to pay for the class $100 per month? Yes, it is. I would set it up as a PayPal subscription, and you would have that way that you're kind of, I think it's important to commit to the time, so that, but then yes, we can set it up as a subscription, so each month it would just be deducted. Actually, that's kind of how both Brett and Rob worked with me on the personal coaching side. They didn't give me a chunk up front. It was kind of on a monthly payment plan. And in the Music Color Method curriculum, I've had probably 80% of the people who have gone through that have paid through a payment plan as well. So yes, we can do that. I'll put the link in there right now. Actually, let me. All right, so I'm on a new computer here. Let me put a link for this over here, and you can see the actual sign-up page. What I'm doing is I'm setting it up as a live class, and it'll be very similar to what we just did now. I'll have a deck each time giving you some basic principles, but it's customized to what you guys are looking for. So when you take my your coaching questionnaire, I'm going to see what the needs are and try to tailor it to that. Some people may be more advanced, some people might need more hand-holding, and we'll try to get everyone moving along at a good pace. So Barbara says, great. Also, I have a small studio and an education startup and a mastermind group. Oh, great, you're in a mastermind group. And you have it. Wow, you're already in this world, Barbara. Congrats. All right. Yes, it is. I think it's valuable to have different perspectives in your masterminds. Like one of the masterminds I'm involved with has a guy who's an amazing copywriter, So we usually defer to him on those kinds of things. Another guy knows systems so well, so I've always asked him for that. And it's okay. So if you're not making enough money now, just think about what will it be like next year when you're still doing the same things. That's the thing that got me moving. Of course, you can seek it out on your own, but I'm saying if you want to move quickly and without a lot of trial and error and mistakes, it could be a very powerful experience. The sheer amount of stuff that you could spend money on. Of course, Facebook and Google will be happy to take your money, which they've taken lots of my money. That is kind of I mean, obviously you can set limits on what you spend with them, but there's a massive learning curve there that I have already gone through that I feel I can offer you guys help on. There's lots of things about web marketing too, and just knowing what to focus on is probably 80% of the battle. Have you guys heard of the Pareto principle? Pareto, Italian mathematician, I believe from the 1400s or something, maybe earlier. His principle was the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your results are coming from 20% of your efforts. So that's super powerful. If you cut away that the extraneous 80% of stuff that you're doing does not bring you results, that is super powerful. And I've done it again and again and again. It's like you kind of keep refining. You take the 80-20, you get that 20, and then you take the 80-20 of that 20, and then you go down further and further. Seriously, even just a couple of years ago, I don't think I could have been operating at this level. I was just telling my wife I had a rehearsal till midnight with the theater company, then I have this webinar, and then I have my full day of teaching, and then tomorrow I have a parents meeting for all my students here in the house. I'm hosting a curriculum meeting. It's a busy life, but it's a full life, and it's something that I had to work up to because I've figured out ways to delegate other tasks using automation, systems, AI, and actual real virtual assistants. Having a virtual assistant is a whole nother focus, but we can work on that too if that's something you guys want to work on. Now, you know, I'm still practicing this stuff myself, so it's like, you know, I'm not going to overpromise and say that I can do anything for you. I'm not a wizard. I'm more the guide, right? Think of me as I'm not Gandalf, but I'm kind of like Gandalf's little brother. So I'm the guide, and we're climbing the mountain together. And I think when you look back a year from now, turn around and look back, or 6 months from now, you're going to see how far you've come. Because the problem is that a lot of people don't realize how far they've come because they're always looking at what's wrong, and then you got to turn around and see where did you come from, you know. Now, another thing about coaching that I find really a good way to think about it is like when you're down at the bottom of a mountain, you can't even see what's ahead. You can only see up the mountain up to a certain level, right? When you actually get to that new level, you actually start to see that there's other levels that didn't even exist in your mind before. It's crazy because they're like, holy cow, I didn't even know that existed. So it's like you start to know what you don't know, right? And then you start to know that you didn't know what you knew or what you don't know. It's like this constant, it's like a word game. I have it written down somewhere. It's like, I know I don't know. I don't know that I know that I don't know. It just goes on and on, right? So I'm looking to help you guys now in my life, but I probably won't do this for a long. I won't do this forever. I'm using it as my vehicle to grow myself as a teacher too. So if I'm trying to get at least, I'm trying to keep it down to 5 or 6 people. Okay, obviously, if I get more, then we might have to make a bigger group. If I don't get any, well, or if I get one, well then it might not be worth my time to do that for that price. So send me questions. Give me send me an email. See if you want to have a chat. We can do a Skype together and talk about what you're going through and see if this would be a good fit for you. But I'm going to give you that deadline so that you don't procrastinate. Because I'd really like to have this starting by October 4th and doing it like every month for the next 6 months. All right? October 4th is next Wednesday. Wow. Can you believe that? Here in New York, it feels like it's still summer. I don't know how. We have 85 degrees and 80% humidity. I went swimming last week, which is crazy, in the beach with no lifeguards, and the whole beach was packed. So yes, okay. So Barbara, you said when's it starting? October 4th is when I'd like it to start. So send me an email, and we'll. Great. Where are you guys from? Barbara, where are you from? Where is it warm like here? This is crazy weather. Oh, you're in Washington Heights? Oh, fantastic. All right, you're uptown. I might have a student for you up there, too. So, we can chat. Okay, so, you're a flute. Barbara says she's a flutist. Flautist? She plays flute. I have, one of my other teachers is a flute player as well, and she's doing fantastic. So, if you guys have any more questions or don't have questions, please send me an email. Let me know what you're thinking, and we'll talk soon. Okay? So, thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you real soon.